Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi surprised us all this morning with his very short address to the nation, where he announced that he was going to repeal the 3 farm laws. That is what national interest is talking about today. But before I get there, let me also talk to you for a minute about the print interest and also about the interest of the free, unhyphenated journalism that we do with lots of field reporting which costs a lot of money. Now, all of this is made possible by paid subscriptions from you. So once again, it's a reminder to take a paid subscription, and you've taken one, please renew it. The other thing that I want to remind you about is that the problem that Reserve Bank of India has caused with our payment system, where recurring payments are not being allowed, and I bet you are facing it with all kinds of issues, from electricity bills to maybe how you pay for your Netflix and Amazon, etc. Because every month now there's a reminder. We face the same problem. If you've taken a monthly payment plan, you must be having problems paying. So my apologies, we are still reasoning with the powers that be at RBI and other places to resolve it. Until that is resolved, please take a quarterly subscription, an annual subscription, or make a one-time payment. So thank you very much for listening to us and for continuing to support us, but we need more of it. Don't let this bureaucratic mess caused by the RBI discourage you, because we need your support. Thank you very much, and I get on to the issue now. Now, Modi government, I believe, has done the right thing, absolutely the right thing, to announce the repeal of the 3 farm laws. Now, it was the only way left to resolve a withering conflict. Why withering? Because you knew these people were sitting around Delhi. There was anger in Punjab, Haryana, Western UP. Besides the fact that elections were coming up in Punjab and Uttar Pradesh, there were also other side effects of this. So it's a good thing that this has been resolved. Now, it doesn't change the fact, however, that the farm laws by and large were reformist, good for Indian farmers, nor can it change the fact that these laws were dead before arrival. Do you think it's contradictory? I will explain to you why it is not contradictory. Why were the laws good and yet they were dead before arrival? Because in a democracy, it doesn't matter how convinced the rulers are of a policy being good for the people. They have to first convince the people that this is good for you. In the summer of 2020, when much of this reformist action was taking place, no one saw the need to do so, because nobody thought कि मोदी जी ने कह दिया, अब किसको समझाने की ज़रूरत है. In any case, there was still a reasonably fresh and heady majority in parliament. There was no opposition. आप सबको मालूम है what kind of opposition we've had. The media by and large was friendly, if not worse than friendly. Supporters of reform, including I, were saying never waste a crisis. So why bother with niceties of parliament practice? We didn't say that you don't bother with niceties of parliamentary practice, but government decided that. So government said, oh, why bother checking the parachute before jumping? So they jumped without checking the parachute. Within the first few weeks of passing of these laws, it became evident that no one had bothered to do any groundwork, build any consensus with the opposition or even with the allies. See the problem the BJP had with Shiromani Akali Dal, which shortly left them after these laws were passed. Or nor did they bother to reach out to convince those most affected by the changes. You cannot take major decisions affecting my life following the doctrine of shock and awe without explaining to me. The Modi government should have known it, having messed up with the undebated, undiscussed or war-gamed demonetization. In fact, it's now such a forgettable decision that they don't even talk about it on its anniversaries. Just now, 5th anniversary passed, but they are quiet about this because they all know it was a blunder. Now, the first blunder with the farm laws was also to introduce these as ordinances. We understand that once you have brute majorities, you think you can take parliament in your stride. Promulgate ordinances and then pass these into laws is a mere formality, right? मेरे पास numbers हैं, मेरे पास majority है. What this means is that parliamentary approval becomes a fait accompli, and the debate is merely of academic importance. Now, you can get away with things like this on an issue which already have wide consensus, or which affect a small number of people, or where people are convinced that something has to be done in a rush, you can't wait for parliament session. But when you are dealing with an issue of the highest political sensitivity like agriculture, affecting nearly half of your population directly and emotionally, sentimentally, must you do it through the ordinance route? Hey, you poor Gamar, rustic fellows, we know what is best for you. Tum kya janta hai? Now say thank you to me and get back to work. It doesn't work like that in real life. In humankind's first and most tradition-bound business, particularly, which is agriculture. Agricultural practices get passed through generations. They get passed down generations and become ossified as habits. It is delusional to think that you can bring about change in all this by diktat, no matter how popular you might be and no matter how powerful you might be. Behind the Green Revolution also stood more than 5 years of persuasion, extension work and direct communication with the farmers. Native evangelists for the idea emerged in Punjab, what is now Haryana also, and convinced the farmers in the regions that were targeted for Green Revolution. Now we wanted to reverse these farm habits because we know Green Revolution has run its course, and economics overnight through 3 ordinances. It wasn't going to happen. The Green Revolution began about 53 years back. That it has indeed run its course, we know. It's evident nowhere better than in Punjab. In Punjab, incomes are falling. In 2000, Punjab was number 1 state in the country by way of per capita income. Now it's number 13 going to 14. And yet the strongest opposition to the laws came from Punjab, the state that needed this reform most of all. It only proves that the reformer, in this case, the Modi government, did not do its homework. On top of it was the arrogance of a second successive and better majority. So power drunk has the BJP been, and so devoid of any internal debate or voices of disagreement, or somebody saying, sir, ye mat kijiye, this is not practical, this will not work. No one was willing to understand or acknowledge that the one state in all of North India least impressed by Modi magic is Punjab. The deep set BJP RSS inability to understand the Sikhs complicated this further. Now they think, who are the Sikhs? They are just one kind of Hindus. The fact is the Sikhs have a lot in common with Hindus, but they are not Hindus. They say in Punjab कि हमारा उंगली और नखून का साथ है. We are like a finger and nail, inseparable. But they are not the same. They are Sikhs, and a large number of them resent the idea of a homogenizing Hindutva as much as the Christians or the Muslims do. That is not something that BJP RSS understand. When they found the Sikhs were not only not falling in line, but responding with such defiance as to lay siege around Delhi, come to the Red Fort on 26 January, campaigns of calumny and conspiracy theories began. Khalistan, foreign hand, Sikh radicalism, all these became the dominant talking points for BJP gladiators on TV channels. By that time, the case for the new farm laws, unfortunately, was lost. I say unfortunately because I think these laws were good for farmers and I supported these editorially in national interest as well several times. Now, next to the BJP's inability to understand Punjab, the Sikhs and the Jats, or to accept that there is a large territory next to Delhi that does not follow Narendra Modi with eyes shut as the crores might do in the Hindi heartland or maybe in Gujarat. Next to that was the lack of respect for parliament. That's why put the cart before the horse, toss an ordinance, have Lok Sabha pass it with voice vote and railroad it through Rajya Sabha in a farce that the entire country witnessed. See it like a farmer. Put yourself on a farmer's saddle on a tractor. The one most apprehensive and ignorant about this sudden dramatic change in not just their traditional business but in their 2-generation lifestyles was the farmer. And the farmer would have thought, these guys are doing this sudden big thing, say this is great for me, but won't even give me the comfort of watching a proper debate and voting in both houses of my parliament. So who's speaking for me there? Why should I take somebody at his word just like that? Now this is the BJP's second retreat. The first one was a new land acquisition bill, and that had suffered from the same ugly haste, lack of preparation, consensus building, respect for the other side, the opposition, have majority, pass bill, right? Just one smart line from Rahul Gandhi, Soot Boot ki Sarkar killed and cremated that bill, though Lok Sabha had already passed it. But then 5 years is too long a time for an all-conquering political leadership to remember any lessons learned. वो भूल गए in 5 years. They didn't remember the reason they had to retreat on the land acquisition bill. Reasons for this defeat are very similar on farm bills. Now, the post-2019 Parliament has seen a flurry of such lawmaking. The action on Article 370 and Kashmir status, for example, was just plonked in Parliament one morning. I think it was a Monday morning. It was over by the evening, almost like India defeating Scotland in the T20 World Cup match in 39 deliveries, right? Khatam ho gaya. Before you could bat an eyelid, it was over. On Kashmir, however, the opposition was mostly conflicted. So many abstained and many voted for the changes. National opinion was overwhelmingly in favor, and Kashmir and Kashmiris are too far. And they don't matter so much in national politics as the Sikhs do. The Citizenship Amendment Act followed, along with that loaded NRC chatter. Chronology samajhiye. It achieved nothing for the BJP. They still lost West Bengal quite badly. They suffered the ignominy of Delhi burning under their watch, and now they are bending over backwards to do repair work with our closest and most important friend in the neighborhood, namely Bangladesh. Further, even CAA now is dead in the water. It was killed by the way it was packaged and presented. You can't pass laws like that and yet seek the friendship of Gulf Arab, Saudi Arabia, UAE and Bangladesh. Once it comes to party interest and such crucial aspects of the national interest, there was no choice but to retreat, cut your losses and retreat. And to that extent, I would say Modi government has been wise when it comes to cutting your losses and going back. They do so quite quickly. Now, to return to reforms, we have seen two other major reverses with reforms, again with decisions we had supported editorially. The new labour codes passed by Parliament about a year ago aren't yet notified. Somebody's got cold feet. The decision to lower interest rates on government-run small savings in keeping with the market realities was rolled back. You see, today, Government of India can raise money through its bonds at a much cheaper price than what it pays on small savings. Somebody panicked in both cases. Both were reformist, tough decisions. Government took those decisions but rolled back. That somebody who had taken all these things for granted was taught a few more tough lessons, namely limitations of a parliamentary majority in a democracy that, however smothered and subdued, is still ticking. Majority is not everything. Second, that no matter how dominant you may be, India is a federation of states and you have your chief ministers only in 12 of the 28, and these also include 4 really small states, that is Tripura, Manipur, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, which means there is a lot of India that doesn't follow you unquestioningly. That is an important point. Now, agriculture is largely a state subject. You'd be reckless and so breathtakingly arrogant to change its basic structure of agriculture without taking the states on board. The final lesson, however, is the most cruel one, and that is the perils of governing a continent-sized, diverse and federal nation like India. You cannot govern it like the chief minister of a state. CM can't become PM just like that. Most of our states now have fleeting assembly sessions, ek din ka session, do din ka session, no debates, and the chief minister acts as the dictator of the state. This cuts across party lines. It's not just the BJP that's doing it, others are doing it also. Just because you have the almighty agencies, CBI, ED, NIA, NCB and God knows how many more, you think you can roll over this federal impulse. You can't. That is the lesson. Will these lessons now be learned? We don't know. Usually smart people learn more from defeat than from victory. It is just that based on what we've seen so far from the BJP, that prospect doesn't seem so likely here.